There is a comic shop beyond that which is known to man. It is a shop filled with arcane and oddity. A long box is in the corner, marred with layers of shadow and dust. It contains the comics between the pit of man's fears and the limits of his bank account. This is the dimension of stupidity. It is an area which we call the Mylite Zone.
Hey everybody, this is Up and Atom Comics, and today on the Mylite Zone, we are going to talk about Captain Tax Time. Kind of weird, huh? So, if you're a little unfamiliar with the Mylite Zone, that is my idea to kind of talk about some of these very strange and unusual comics that I happen to have in my comic collections. Um, and just why these things existed, what they're about, kind of do a little deep dive into them. So, Captain Tax Time. This is issue one, which is the one and only. Has a lot of the books I may feature on here, maybe one and only shots. And it's done by this Paul Haynes Comics. And this came out in 1990. Um, the creators, it was Captain Tax Time himself was created by Paul Haynes. But the writers are Terry Rotsaert, Ted Collyer, and Phil Haynes, and artists are Ted Collyer and Terry Rostert. And so that's basically who is responsible for this. So, uh, in the US here, at least I know, April 15th is our federal tax due date. And then May 1st, we have usually for state taxes and things like that to file. So I thought this would be a little timely to kind of put out. So if you're trying to avoid doing your tax returns, you could watch this video and learn about Captain Tax Time. So anyway, um, with this comic, so this is a complete black and white book here. Um, and this is a really uh, this was a really weird book to kind of go through. So one of the things that was a little bit of an education for me. This is a Canadian comic, so this is about taxes being filed in Canada. So I'm a little bit unfamiliar with how their government system and everything works. But basically, this book starts off with a prime minister who is named Byron Baloney, and he has a finance minister who I guess is oversees the um, kind of the fiscal part of the government. I'm guessing kind of like our director of the IRS would be here in the US, but basically, the prime minister is saying, hey, we need to figure out a way to get more tax revenue. And so he calls the prime minister calls the finance minister to say, hey, we need to find out a way to tax people, but we don't want to tax the wealthy. We want the common man and the kind of the low class and the middle class to pay. Like we want the money to come out of them, uh, not the top earners in our country. So kind of seems a little similar, rings a little true to these days. Um, but anyway, so he this the federal minister is trying to think of ways to do it. He brings up he kind of brings in and the prime minister, I mean the federal minister, sorry, I keep getting these things, but he's got this little henchman here who's known as the Claw. And he himself, as he's getting obsessed with taxes, goes into this metamorphosis to change himself into this monster. And he says, we're going to tax everything, goods, services, even food, no exceptions. And then uh, the Claw is like, hey, maybe not food. Let's maybe not do that. And so they kind of get in an argument, and he's like, no, I'm doing that anyway. Um, and so what they decide to do is they're creating this tax, but they're trying to use a term to try to fool the people. So they're calling it a Good Samaritan tax. So what they said is we're going to kind of we feel that the government has misled you on a lot of taxes and hasn't really told you the truth of everything. So we're going to get rid of those and put everything into this Good Samaritan tax. And we're going to be more honest with where everything is going to be taxed because you probably don't know all the stuff that we're taking from you. So, and they're like, we'll call it a Good Samaritan tax because if it's from the Bible, that'll be make it seem like we're doing a good thing for people. So, and they're like, we promise you will not be cheated, and that's what the kind of the statement to the press is. Um, but anyway, so once this press conference goes out about this new things, we come to the hero of this tale, and he has some kind of base underneath the Arctic. Uh, so somewhere in the Arctic, far from any known place, so you won't know. And in this ancient underground lair, um, you see that this is where Captain Tax Time lives. And so Captain Tax Time is like, okay, I need to do something here. Um, so what he does is, as uh, the grabber, the finance minister, had like a underling known as Claw. Captain Tax Time has Sergeant Saver. So Sergeant Saver is getting summoned to kind of come help. Um, and so this is Sergeant Saver. So he's just it shows up all black here, but basically he's just kind of like a ninja guy. There's a lot of guys with not a lot of clothes on in this, or they're covered in a all body suit. So not sure what that's about. Maybe it's just simple drawing and that type of thing. So basically, they're like, we're gonna fight this. Meanwhile, um, the the finance minister is gathering all the um, basically the drug lords, and who have a lot of money, and they're basically saying, "Hey, we're gonna, we're storing all this money that the people have made, and we got like, and all the money that you have raised from all of your sale of drugs, and so we have this vault that we have put all this money into." And what's funny is they say it is an adamantium vault. So adamantium from the X-Men, Wolverine's skeleton is made of adamantium. So also is this vault. So maybe this is a little crossover into the X-Men world. So I'm just gonna make that canon. Okay. So, um, but basically, the drug lords are a little upset, and because they know their money's being stored, but they feel like the common man has actually been not wanting to come to work, so because they are getting taxed so much, so they're complaining about that. And then meanwhile, Captain Tax Time and Sergeant Saver kind of burst through there, and they start beating up some drug lords. And so there's a big battle that kind of ensues. Um, and the basically the grabber and claw are trying to escape. And you've not heard of any powers up to this point that Captain Tax Time has, other than, hey, I can punch some people, and that's kind of cool. But he says he's at this point, right when he gets up to the grabber and the claw, um, he unleashes his thermal radium blast, and he engulfs the grabber and claw in a heated typhoon of energy, one that would destroy normal men. So that's kind of, uh, but it doesn't do anything. Spoilers. And basically, the grabber is kind of like, okay, well, I'm free, didn't do anything, and I'm going to escape. Uh, And then I Captain Tax Time and Sergeant Saver basically find the big vault and they open it up and I think it's a 30 million, it's $30 billion um, that's in there. And so what they decide to do is give that to all the people so there is no more deficit. The economy is totally fixed, all thanks to Captain Tax Time. And so it kind of the grabber is away in his own lair, and then he kind of says, "I have a surprise for them," and it's the enforcer. So, but it's Thee. So, the enforcer, like I say thee nay. But there's no number two, so it's such a cliffhanger. And I know you're gonna be sorely disappointed, but um, that's all there is for Captain Tax Time. Now, one thing that was interesting, they had a whole thing in the back about who the creators are, and then there are two little four panel things. So what you come to realize is that this entire comic is an ad. And so and I would say, like a lot of you see a lot of comics that are PSAs or different things or, about something to try to educate people or what have you. This cost $4 Canadian back in 1990. So that was 350 US. So, not a cheap comic to purchase or just to give out to people like if you needed help anything. But basically what the ads were is be your own boss, buy a tax time franchise. So there were these tax time tax services, and what they were trying to do is teach people how to do their own taxes. Now, on the back page, there is an open letter from Captain Tax Time, and it continues onto the inside. Hey, and it's actually signed by Captain Tax Time. That's pretty cool, huh? But basically, what they do in this open letter is they are basically talking, kind of educating people um, that there are a lot of middle and low income families that need to have someone do their taxes for them, but the big gripe is that they don't get to deduct their uh, costs to have somebody prepare your taxes for you. But the higher income people are able to deduct those tax preparation charges. Not sure exactly what that is. I'm hoping some of my Canadian friends will be able to talk a little bit more and educate me and whoever else happens to watch this about what this does. Now they have some interesting little stats here, and I'm not sure if this is true. So this is according to Captain Tax Time, so in 1990. So I'm assuming this is somewhat true, but there's no references. They didn't include a bibliography from where they got this information. But it says that 70% of taxpayers get help in preparing their returns, and over 46% pay a fee for such help. So I think they're talking about that middle and low income that aren't able to prepare their taxes. Now, they say Revenue Canada makes these claims despite an accuracy rate of less than 50% in answering taxpayer phone inquiries, and that this is some of the stuff where I'm not sure if this is true. They say that there is a functional illiteracy rate of 25% throughout the whole population of Canada, um, and an innumeracy rate, meaning that uh, the inability to actually perform basic addition and subtraction. But they said that there is an innumeracy rate of 50% throughout the whole population. So there's 25% that are illiterate, and 50% of the population is has innumeracy, and so is not able to do simple math. So they're saying that basically, like, since the government has to do this, since the government's making us file tax returns, we need help, and so they're trying to sell you to become your own tax time franchise to um, learn how to take, like, there's a tax time course here. Take this tax time course and be able to learn how to do your own taxes. And hey, who knows? Maybe you can set up your own, be your own boss, set up your own tax time franchise. Now, interestingly, I did look a little bit up of this about this franchise. So this Paul Haynes is basically, from what I could gather, was the person that was in charge of this tax time services, and they basically, this is 1990. So in 1991, they were bought by H&R Block, and they were also, tax time services kind of shut down. They were being sued in courts, and within 5 years, they completely shut down everything. So maybe they should have done their taxes and kind of learned how to beat the system. But anyway, this was an interesting read, very weird. Um, and I, when I saw this comic flipping through some boxes, it was one of those things, like, I was like, I don't know what this is, but I kind of need to read it. And so I have a few places near me that just carry the weirdest stuff, probably for my benefit. But when I remember seeing this through a box, I was like, I have got to pick this up. And so I've never heard of Captain Tax Time. I've never seen this before. I'm guessing most of you have probably never. I'm curious if Lyle Hobson has this book. So, Lyle, if you happen to watch, let me know if you have this one, Captain Tax Time. And I'm kind of curious to see if anybody in Canada would happen to have heard of this before. But yeah, you had to pay $4 to learn about Captain Tax Time. So anyway, hope that was entertaining for you. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure you flip through a floppy, and we'll catch you again in the Mylite Zone. Ooh, ah, ah, ah.